Hi guys, in this series of Node.js from zero to hero, we're going to understand the concept in creating a sample website that applies all logic in using Node.js. So now, without any further ado, let's get started. To start with, we need to understand what is Node.js. Node.js is an extremely powerful JavaScript-based platform used to develop online chat applications, video streaming sites, single-page application, and many others, such as web application and web apps. As for our requirement, for this demo, I'll be using Windows 10. And one of the requirements for Node.js is you need to download the package itself. To do that, you need to download by typing https://nodejs.org and then go to the download section. And then from the download section, you need to download the Node.js package on your own. If I'm using Windows, so you need to go to the Windows section, then go to the or select the sections which is your OS required. So let's say if you're using 32 or 64. As of the time of this recording, I'll be using, or our Node.js is 14.17.0, and with the current also version here with the 16.3.0. But for most cases, we'll be using this recommended version. This is the 14.17.0. So once installed, the next thing you need to do is to check Node.js if installed. To do that, you need to type cmd or the command prompt, then type node-3. So if you found that it will shows the version, which means that Node.js is properly installed on your system. Okay, so if this is okay, let's start with our coding. To start with, I'm going to create a new folder. For that folder, I'm going to name as Node Beginner. For this demo, I'll be using VS Code, but on your system, if you prefer to use other IDE, it's okay. So same goes as long as you have the Node version installed. Okay, so let's continue. So if using VS Code, so just simply right click here, then open with code. As for a starter, the first thing you need to do is to initialize our Node.js. To do that, you need to go to this section here, then click New Terminal. Okay. To start, you need to type npm init and hit enter. For the first selection here or question here is you need to ask the package name. Seems I don't want to change it either, so I'll just leave it as is. So just hit enter. With a version, I'm fine with that, just hit enter. Description, well, let's say Node.js from 0 to hero. for our entry point, since we don't have an entry point yet, so we can skip this for now. Just hit enter. Test command, same goes. Same goes with Git repository and keywords. Author, I'll be the one. I'm going to put my name here. Enter. License, you can skip that. Okay. Next thing you notice that it is asking about the things that you already been set up. So if you're confident with this kind of setup, then we can just simply hit enter, which means we agree. Okay, once we finish our setup, the next thing we need to notice that it will create a package called package.json. So to view that, I'm going to clear this one here. Then I'm going to create package.json. Inside the package.json, this holds the information of the system. So since we're still studying or beginning or learning Node.js, we can skip this for now, because on the next demo we can elaborate more about package.json. So just an overview of what this package.json is for. So let's start. To begin with, I'm going to create our first file. So I'm going to name that as server.js. That's our first file application. So for now, I'm going to type some stuff here. So later, I'm going to explain this afterwards. So just follow along. Okay, so for http var http server http dot read server function press. We're going to type a res write line write head and 200, and with the content type it should be text/html. res.write. Let's say this is HTML with a body. Let's say want to assign a paragraph. This is homepage. Okay, if this is okay. Then next thing, need to type res.end. So from here, I'm going to call the server not listen. Let's say 5,000. So console.log Node.js web server listen at port 5000. Node.js web server list, or should I say was at port 5000 is running. See? Okay. As you can see, I type a bunch of codes here. Now let's begin. To understand Node.js, the first thing you need as required for this one is you should know a basic knowledge in HTML. Also, since we're dealing about web page, not only HTML but also JavaScript. In Node.js, most of the code here are almost all the code written in JavaScript can also apply in Node.js. So, since Node.js is on an advanced level, it also interprets as to what or how your web browser does. So let's start with this one. In most common code, or in usually cases when you're creating a Node.js, this required here is one of the things that you will see during creation. So what it does is, whenever there's a package, or you install a package, or should I say, not only package, but also a file, require is one of the things that calls to that particular package or file. So what it does is, if you understand the concept of Python, this is also known as include. Same with C language. This is also one of the things that usually called in Node.js. On this line here, for this line here, it calls the package of HTTP. So since Node.js supports web, so we assign the package in this variable here, HTTP. Then from here, we call the HTTP to create a server, which is our web server. Then inside its function, we assign the following. First, we create or assign a 200, which is a success response, with a content type of text/HTML. So usually, the interpreter here is that we assign a content type with this type here. As you remember, if you are working with HTML, you can see this content type most of the cases, because whenever you make a request, we assign a head in every application, in every code, especially in web programming. Okay. So next, the next line here, I create a basic HTML code. So wherein I assign a temporary web page or a web page here. Okay. So this is like the HTML and the closing tag, a body with a body closing tag, and a paragraph, which is I'm saying that this is a home page. So this will execute later on our website. And the last thing is we close our running application. Next, we assign this variable here to listen on port 5000. In Node.js, you can assign different port. So since our browser is default by port 80, to avoid that conflict, you can assign a different port. So let's say like this one. On our example, I'm using 5000. And lastly, this code here displays a message which indicates that Node.js web server was at port 5000 is running. Okay, let's check. To start with, to run a Node.js, you need to type node and the name of the application or file. So since our file is server.js, you can simply type server.js. In the latest version onwards, you can also simply run without the .js because Node server recognize what's within the content. So since we are okay with this one, so let's try. Going to hit enter. Okay, there you go. Now let's check this in our browser. Going back to our browser, if I type localhost 5000, there you go. So this is how Node.js works and how this works within the backend and to the front end. So let's continue. So on the next part, we're going to create an enhanced URL or request for this to work. So for better understanding, we're going to assign if then else statement. Let's say in here, I'm going to assign a URL request. So to do that, I'm going to call this variable here, this request here, dot URL. So what it does is going to check the URL. By default in web server, the slash here indicates that this is the default server or the main. So since this is our first code, so I'm going to assign this our homepage or the main. Next, I'm going to assign another URL. So I'm going to apply another if then else statement. Let's say I'm going to copy this one here, paste it. Let's say for this one, I'm going to call this as about page. For the about, this is the about page. So let's add more. Let's say I'm going to add one more here. This time I'm going to call this one as contact. Then here I'm going to change this as contact page. Save. So let's explain the let's check this one by one. Also in Node.js, you need to know also the concept of loop statement, if then else, other things that you learn from school. Same goes, it also applies in Node.js. Like for this one, we assign or are checking request URLs, which means we're checking the address URL. If it is in the default, then what should it do? So since we assign that, this message will display. Now, while doing that, we also add some URL checking, which is in here. I assign what if it is a slash about. What would be displayed? So from this example here, I said that this is a about page. Same goes if I type slash contact, it will also define or display this message. So let's try. To start, you need to cancel again this running program here. To do that, you need to press Ctrl C. Let's clear this up here and run node server. Then going back to our browser, so from here I'm going to press enter. So notice this is our home page. Now a while ago I assigned another URL, which is the slash about. So when I hit enter, it will bring us to our about page. Now if I'm going to change this to contact, if I hit enter, we are now on our contact page. Good. So what if we assign a different URL? So let's say I'm going to type here other. Yeah, hit enter. Notice that our request took some time because it's trying to check within our path if there's an existing of /other. Now, for some cases, when you're creating a website, these are most commonly issues as a beginner. So to avoid that, we need to create another statement if something like this happen. So to do that, we need to check our code. So for the last method or conditions here, we're going to assign an else statement. Then on the else statement, I'm going to call this one invalid. Request. This will prevent from displaying other website which is not assigned or not set up in our code. So let's check. If I'm going to, as a first time in integrating Node.js, since we're not using NodeMon yet, so we need to refresh our running server. So to do that, you need to always cancel by pressing Ctrl+C and then run again, so that the latest updates will be applied. So let's check. Okay, so if I hit enter, there you go. Notice this last statement here automatically execute. So this is how you apply the conditions if no URL links was detected. So for the last time, we're going to check all of our URL. So let's say enter on page. That works. Next is about. Good. The last one is our contact. And if you type others, so let's say check. There you go. Okay, so that's it, guys. On the next video series, we're going to discuss more about Node.js. We're going to discuss the EJS, Pub, Jade, and other things, especially connecting to the database and so forth. So, if you find this video informative, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. See you guys on the next video series. Cheers!